So you got a Ronin SC. Today I want to show you how to set it up and some of the best settings you can start out with to fine tune it for your use. Hey, my name's Jake Sloan, and this channel is all about helping solo creators like myself create better videos and take better photos using drones, cameras, and other technology. So I do tech reviews and related tutorials. The DJI Ronin SC is a great, small, compact travel gimbal that works really well for anybody with lighter weight setups, especially mirrorless cameras, and that does a lot of things like what I do, where I'm out hiking and exploring wild wilderness of Alaska, or really on-the-go creators who need something that's lightweight and fast and easy to set up so that they can take it with them on commercial shoots. To start off with, you have the hand grip, which is also your battery. You can't charge this without putting it together with the gimbal, and the bottom has a 3/8 thread and a 1/4 inch thread. The tripod that DJI supplies is a 1/4 inch thread, so you can screw it in just like this, and then you have a fantastic base to be able to start assembling and balancing the gimbal. The gimbal itself, all locked together, looks like this. I've taken this side off and used this small rig plate. Yeah, there'll be a link in the description if you're interested, just because it has a lot of 1/4 mounts and I can mount an external monitor arm or whatever I want to it. But put the two together, slide it like that, and then very importantly, make sure that is locked by pushing it forward. Now you've got the gimbal assembled, pretty much ready to go, and depending on your camera, it's multi to Sony or multi to USB to camera, if it's a USB-C. I use this one because it doesn't disable in-body image stabilization on Sony cameras. If you're using in-body image stabilization, this is the one to use. If you're just using USB-C on your camera, then this one works fine too. This one also works with Sony cameras. It just disables in-body image stabilization, so you know, something to be aware of. Either one of these cables will plug in right here, and the one to plug in is the angled side. Plug it in like that, and voila. Now to assemble the plate. So you have this plate here. This plate has this little piece here, which is great for once you get it set and balanced, to lock it in place so that you know where it's going to balance when you put it back in place. It's pretty simple to assemble. Just place on the camera, thread it in using your fingers, and then if you have a screwdriver or a little tool like this, you can tighten it up and you're ready to go. I always place it toward the back of the camera just so that it's lined up back there, and then it gives you a fair amount of leeway moving forward, but you might find that you have to put it somewhere else. Now, if you're using a lighter weight body like the A6400 with a larger lens like this Tamron 28-75 or Sigma 16mm 1.4, something like that, you're going to want to use this spacer plate, and it's very simple how that attaches. Put the plate on the camera, use a screw, thread the screw into the body, tighten it up, and make sure it's pretty straight with the lens and the body. Now you want to put both screws through the bottom of the main plate, which means you have to thread them through so they both drop in. And then when you place the camera plate through like so, you can thread each screw in and then set the plate about where you want it. I find that toward the back is probably about the best. The reason I always start out by finger tightening and not using a screwdriver or something like that right off the bat is that I want to make sure that I don't accidentally misthread or strip the screws out. It hasn't happened to me yet, but I'm just always a little bit aware of it. So now there's a lot of space between the body and the lens and the plate, and so if you wanted to use a wider lens or a larger lens, you can easily put it on there and there's still plenty of space. This lens would not fit without that spacer plate. I'm gonna stick with the Sony 16-50 because it's a cheap kit lens, it's lightweight, and actually I kind of like it. It's pretty nice for B-roll and stuff. The other thing that they give you is this lens support for longer lenses and the screw for it. The one thing to note is that on this lens support there is a groove on one side, and that's the side that the screw goes into so that it fits nice and snug. So if you were gonna put that on, you would attach it like so. Like so. My favorite feature of gimbals that are coming out now is the locking features, because it keeps them all nice and tidy. Unlock it and set it so that it looks approximately like this. Lovely dangling cable. Then to put the camera on, simply push this little silver tab in, slide the camera in place, and get ready to lock it down. Now this is important. Before you start balancing the gimbal, you want to make sure your camera is set up exactly the way you want it. So if you're going to use any ND filters, lens hoods, any microphones, anything like that, you want it all set up. So I'm going to plug the USB cable in. We're going to stick the Rode Video Micro on here. Basically, you want your camera totally set up exactly the way you're going to use it before you balance the gimbal, so that you can balance it as perfectly as possible with your camera weight exactly the way it's going to be. So to balance, first thing, unlock this axis here, which is the tilt axis. And because the camera is top heavy, it's going to tip like so. That means this part here is too high. So we're gonna lower that down a little bit to where it kind of stays in place like that. Although actually that's pretty good right there. If this is not, if it's too far forward, it's gonna tip forward. If it's too far backward, it's gonna tip backward. What you wanna do is set it right in the center to where the gimbal basically doesn't move, and then you can tighten down this screw here. So now the way to check your tilt axis balance is you should be able to put the camera in basically any position and have it not move from wherever you place it. Now we know we've got this balanced, the tilt axis front to back is balanced. We want to take and set this little setting here and set it right back tight there, so that we know that's where the camera balances. Now, anytime in the future, if we unlock this, take the camera off, do whatever we're gonna do, come and put it back on, it's gonna slide right back there. We can tighten this down. Plug everything in, and we know that that is exactly where the balance is for the tilt axis. That's important when we go to this next step, because as soon as we start balancing roll axis, we need to make sure that we can loosen this without losing the tilt axis balance again. So we're gonna loosen this up because it's a little heavy this way because of the microphone. I'm gonna just gently push it over a couple clicks. That was probably one click too far. I do like that DJI put the clicks in, because it really does make it nice for being able to balance it quickly again. So now we should be able to turn this camera pretty much any direction and have it not move. So the way to check the balance for this, the yaw, the turning axis, the yaw axis, is to hold the gimbal and tip it. And if it's too far forward, like that, say, we do that, the camera will swing around, really mess things up. So we know that's too far forward. We're gonna pull it back to about here. Do the same thing, tip like that, tip like that. So it's a little bit back heavy because it's swinging to the back. Essentially, whatever side it's swinging toward, if it moves this way when you're tilting, then you know it's gonna be front heavy. If it swings toward the back, whatever side swings toward the downhill side, the side you're holding down, that's the side it's too heavy on. So now that we've got that pretty much balanced, and if I can get my camera to stop turning off and on, we know that we've got this balance, right? Just like that. Now you can turn the gimbal on, push and hold the power button there till you hear the ding. So now the gimbal's on, we can see we've got pretty good balance overall. But it's important to connect the app and do an auto tune on the motors, especially anytime you go from like the A6400 and I put my A7 III on there. The motor strength is drastically different between these two cameras, and so it's really important to auto tune anytime you switch up your camera settings in a big weight way. So we'll go to the Ronin app, put motor parameters, and then auto tune, and it'll go through its little auto tune procedure here. Almost done. And there we go. So now you can see that the pan, the tilt, and the roll motors, the strength of them is all set according to what the gimbal felt, sensed, and tested inside of itself. Now that that's done, we can go to the balance adjustment. And what you were supposed to do is hold the gimbal off at an angle. So I'm holding it about 26 degrees, and then begin test. The gimbal will move through a couple of different axes axes, whatever the plural of axis is. It'll do this, it'll move around while it tests itself out and checks the balance. So if you did a good job, by the time you're done, by the time it's done testing, it'll come up with the results of, yay, I balanced everything excellently. If you want to see more videos about the Ronin SC, how to use different features, etc., you can click or tap right here. If you want to see reviews of other technology that I use as a solo creator that might help you out, you can click or tap right here, and I'll see you in one of those videos.